What is up, guys? Block FPL here, and welcome back to a Euro fantasy video on my channel. That was very hard to say because I'm used to saying Fantasy Premier League, but this is my first well thought out Euros team. Now, for those of you that don't know, the scoring for this is very similar to Fantasy Premier League. Goals are the same, assists are the same. There are some minor differences, but there aren't major differences like, for example, a certain amount of tackles isn't worth a certain amount of points, and ball winnings aren't worth anything, and completed crosses aren't worth anything. But the one minor difference I can think of off the top of my head is that if you win a penalty, that is, if you get fouled in the box and the ref gives the penalty, that player that won the penalty gets 1 point. So very minor differences, but basically it's like Fantasy Premier League as far as scoring goes. But captaincy and subs work completely different. So between each match day, not game week, but each individual day in the game week, you can make subs as well as change your captain, and that is why currently Manuel Locatelli is my captain, because Turkey versus Italy is the only game on that first match day. So if and when Locatelli blanks, I could then the next day change the captaincy to whoever else, and then the day after that I would change out and sub off the people that didn't do anything for my players on the bench. And that's also why players like Ferran Torres and Garcia are on the bench, even though those are likely to be players that end up in the starting lineup. Fantasy Euros also has chips like the free hit and the wild card. The free hit is called something different, but I will be using that free hit chip in the second game week, or at least that's my plan. So a lot of the players I have in my team right now have good fixtures in the first game week and the third game week. So that is something to keep in mind as well as I go through my team. Starting off with the forwards, I have Ronaldo, Lewandowski, and Lukaku. I've labeled them the big three. There are plenty of big forwards to choose from, however, including Harry Kane and Mbappe. Now, Ronaldo, I've chosen him. Let's start off with the fact that he's literally got 8 shots per game in the European qualifiers, as well as all-around good statistics for Portugal, and obviously he's one of the best players of all time. So you can't really go too wrong with Ronaldo. The one thing I will mention is that he has bad fixtures in game weeks 2 and 3. Obviously 2 is not an issue for me, but 3 potentially is. But I could easily sell him to Kane that week because England have a good fixture that week. I think he's going to be nailed onto my team 100%. I don't want to miss out on this matchup versus Hungary. Lewandowski has great fixtures in 1 and 3, which fits me perfectly, so he will almost certainly be in my team for that reason. He has 2.8 shots per game in the qualifiers, which is nice, not amazing, but he has scored a lot, and also he's got a little bit better numbers in the recent World Cup qualifiers with Poland, so that looks good as well. Lukaku, an amazing 5 shots per game. He's had an amazing season in Serie A. Belgium have been amazing. Obviously, De Bruyne is hurt, and that could impact his numbers a little bit, but Belgium are one of the only teams right now that I really rely on to score a lot of goals each game, even in a potentially tougher fixture. I think with the team they have, they almost have to focus on the attacking side of things rather than the defensive side, simply because they have a lot of good attackers. Now, that doesn't mean their defenders are bad, but still, their quality of attackers is pretty good. And even when they went 2-0 down against Japan in the World Cup, they were still able to find a way back and win 3-2. So plenty of experiences like that have put a lot of confidence in me to pick Lukaku into my team. I thought long and hard about a double up with Lukaku and Hazard, and while that's still a possibility, I'm just not too convinced that having Hazard in there is completely worth it right now. At the moment, I went for a more spread out look with my funds, and I also quite like some of these midfield options that I will talk about now. And the first one is Ferran Torres. You will see him third on my bench at the moment, but he is my favorite midfielder and my most expensive one. He is the most likely to start out of any Spain midfielder, in my opinion. The ones that are fantasy options, anyway. I also do like Olmo from Red Bull Leipzig, who is an attacking midfielder for Spain as well. But Torres has been a little bit more nailed on recently for his recent appearances. He's in great form at the end of the season for City. I really, really like this pick, actually. His numbers surprised me for Spain. He's got a good amount of shots. I will be talking more about the statistics when I do live streams, but for now, just know that I really love this Torres pick. Malinowski has been hyped up a lot throughout the FPL community. Again, his numbers look good. I'm not completely sold on him simply because his best fixture is game week 2. And for me, if I'm going to use the free hit, again, I don't know what it's actually called. I just know it's like a free hit, so I'm going to call it the free hit. I'm going to use that in game week 2 anyway. So he doesn't fit my strategy completely, but he's a quality player at the 7 million mark. And the other options out there, I'm just not too convinced by them. For example, Mason Mount would be good, but England played Croatia game week 1 as well. So Croatia is probably a little bit tougher than Netherlands, but at the same time, England are much better than Ukraine. So this is one to think about for me. I know a lot of people are big on him. I'm certainly saying he's a great option, but I may go somewhere else. I'm not completely sure. I do, however, think that Shaqiri will end up in my final team. The Wales matchup is nice, and he has another okay one in game week 3. He's 7 million. I think that getting some points at him game week 1 would sort of be necessary to make this pick viable. However, given that they don't really have too much else besides him, he's probably going to play 90 minutes. And he's got a decent chance of taking some set pieces as well. So I quite like this pick. Wales, one of the worst teams in the Euros, so can't go too wrong with Shaqiri, I don't think. As far as Locatelli goes, you will see that he is currently captained. And the reason for this, of course, is the fact that they play early on. And the reason Locatelli is in here is simply because I wanted to avoid having a 4.0 midfielder or 4.5 midfielder like a lot of people do. And I originally did have that cheap guy that's like 50% owned, but he's really not going to play. And considering the way the subs work in this game, I'm going to go at it from a strategy of I just want all my players to at least have a chance of doing something. That way I can sub them in and out. Now, Locatelli's numbers aren't amazing. He did get a total of 7 attacking returns in the league, in Serie A that is. And in his recent games for Italy, he does average about 1 key pass and about 1 shot per game. So there's at least something there that he can do. And in that time, he has gotten like a goal and an assist in the past 6 or so games. I don't know the exact numbers, but it's not terrible for Locatelli. I don't know if he's nailed on or not, but the way the deadline works in this game means that we will have the Italy and Turkey lineup while we still have free transfers before game week 1. So this could easily change to any other Italy midfielder that is cheaper than him or the same price, and maybe a Turkey midfielder as well. But it's just someone thrown in there that has a chance of doing something that isn't the super cheap options. The one advantage I would get with going with someone much cheaper would be I could upgrade the goalkeeper or just use that money to upgrade elsewhere. Alaba is my final mid. He is the same price as Locatelli at 5.5. Neither one of these guys I'm super excited about, but I think Alaba is certainly nailed on. He's been playing left mid or left wing for Austria in their recent appearances, which is good to see from a fantasy perspective because sometimes he will play defensive mid. And since he's listed as a midfielder, well, obviously we don't want him to play there. His numbers aren't terrible. I'm still not expecting that much. He's not on a great team, but again, it's 5.5 and he's got a chance of doing something. So moving on to the defenders, I'm actually a big fan of Ricardo Rodriguez from a fantasy perspective anyway. This man is on penalties for Switzerland and they play Wales in the first matchup. I don't think you can go too wrong with that. He's only 5.5. He's not 6 million, even though he is on penalties. He also creates a lot of chances for Switzerland. Key pass king, penalty merchant. Say whatever you want about him, but I think that this is a great player to start off with, especially if you're free hitting in game week 2 like I am. Now, I don't know how to pronounce this next guy's name. I think it's Joachim Mele, something like that. He is Denmark's attacking fullback. I believe he could play left wing back or right wing back, or even right mid if you wanted to. Some decent chances created. I would imagine there's no way he's not a regular starter for them. I quite like this pick at only 4.5. I think cheap defenders all over is the way to go because we have plenty of options like Denier, who's pretty much going to start for Belgium. Again, one thing I haven't mentioned is that these teams will have 2 international friendlies right before this tournament. So we can get sort of a grip on who we think is going to start and who we think is going to be a rotation risk in those 2 games, hopefully. Bednarek is also 4.5. He's a bit of a rotation risk at the moment. There's another Poland 4.5 defender that I'm interested in that I could easily switch to. Like Lewandowski, this pick fits very well with the free hit in Game Week 2 strategy. Eric Garcia is someone that is definitely going to be in my team unless he sort of establishes himself as a rotation risk. Another player I like from Spain is Pau Torres, and he is also a 4.5 defender. These 4.5 defenders are certainly the way to go. That's why I have 4 of them, and then I have Ricardo Rodriguez, who I simply think is a great attacking threat. I think Garcia and Pau Torres could be a very risky but very beneficial double Spain defense. The only problem with this is because of the way the subs work, like you can sub people after a certain match day, having 2 players in the same position on the same team, or just in general, like having a lot of players from the same team can be harmful, because it just allows you, or it harms you in the way that you can't spread out your match days as much as possible. But given the fact that these are Spain defenders and they have some good fixtures, I don't think that would be a bad idea. But one of them will certainly end up in my team, because you're getting what's most likely a nailed-on 4.5 defender. So that concludes all of the defenders and the outfield players. Now for the goalkeepers, where I have spent almost no money. My 4.5 is Shakir. That's Turkey's goalkeeper. I think Turkey are a little bit underrated going into this tournament. They did beat Netherlands 4-2, and I really like that result. However, Netherlands may be a little bit overrated, which has been the case a lot in the past, 11 years. I should probably say 10 years, ever since they lost the World Cup final. But Shakir has been starting for Turkey. He's only 4.5 on a decent team. Is he really going to get a lot of points? Probably not, but 4.5 goalkeeper that rotates decently well with my backup, who is Hradecki. They don't play on the same day, game week 1, for example, so if at least one of them does something, that would be nice. But I'm not expecting a lot out of them. I am simply getting cheap starting goalkeepers that I think are the best. One person I have been interested in is Cillessen, or maybe Tim Krul if he comes out starting, but we will see that in friendlies. If Krul starts for Netherlands, he will certainly be in my team. There's almost no doubt about that. That concludes my first Euro Fantasy draft. Thank you guys for watching. I will see you guys in the next video.